Good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching from other time zones, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. And for those who are new to our platform or first time to watch us, my name is Marilyn. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co creating customized programs with our world class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, including Petronas, Sony Mobile, PruLife UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. And the reason why we are organizing several interventions, including this interview, is for us to be able to add value and help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the next normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a remote team, or nowadays I would say hybrid setting will be more appropriate. And of course, for those who are afraid that they can't keep their team or their business. So to be able to stay relevant and continue to lead effectively in any situations, do join us in this interview. And for today, I'm very excited, and it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our leader for today, Kai's Kai Yee Loo. Kai Yee is professional coaching in professionally coaching teams and leader development, backed by more than 3 decades of experience in the biopharmaceutical industry, where he held senior positions in manufacturing, HR, organizational development, and culture change. He coaches leaders individually for greater personal effectiveness, conducts team coaching for higher performance, as well as facilitates group coaching for specific objectives such as empowerment of women leaders to overcome gender stereotyping. His practical experience in technical operations as well as human resource development gives him a very balanced approach in coaching leaders. He helps clients to focus on getting business results while at the same time coaching them on personal development so that the success they gain are sustainable. Kai has been professional certified coach, or PCC, since 2014. His coaching style is adapted to the needs of the clients and is grounded in different approaches such as strength based, narrative, as well as solutions focused coaching. He is also on the faculty of an ICF approved international coach training school, and he contributes back to the community through mentoring of young adults and pro bono coaching of social entrepreneurs. So without so much further ado, I'd like to bring Kai. Hello, Kai. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, Maryland. Thank you for that kind introduction, and hello to everyone who is watching this live and also perhaps viewing the recording later. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you.
Yes, and thank you so much for, spending your time with us today. And hopefully we can, inspire more people through the message and the stories that you're going to share with them. And the reason why I invited Kai, just for our audience information, is that we've been like connected in LinkedIn, and we recently had a conversation which I would say we both enjoyed so much, right? And I really appreciate the similarities in both the values and like how we would want to add value to others as well, and how we help like both leaders and organization. And I really wanted to bring this on stage or in this platform, so that I would say like more people get inspired and motivated or learn from you, not just me through that conversation, but also through these platforms that we have, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that chat we had, Marilyn. I think something in common that we have is development of people. And I like the fact that your solution is customized, and that's what I believe in. Different people have different needs, and we just have to think about how to customize development and learning for them.
Exactly, exactly. And so I'd like to start by, answering, I mean, question, asking the questions.
Yeah.
I have 8 questions as per usual, and the first three would likely to get your perspective from where or which perspective you're coming from. I would say the 4 to 6 question will be the meaty part, and the 7 to 8 question will be the most interesting part of this conversation, I would say, because it's a very, I would say, open questions, which I would normally say as a Miss Universe questions. So to start with, please do share with us your leadership experiences and influencers. If you have a favorite leadership style, which I have a hint already as well, please do share with us.
Okay, thank you for that question. I'm looking forward to your Miss Universe questions actually, but let's answer this first. All right.
Sure.
So you asked me about my leadership experiences. Actually, this question brings back good memories all the way back to my high school days.
Wow.
During those early days, I had many leadership experiences. I'm very thankful for those opportunities, which continue to shape my leadership style up to today. Let me give you one example.
Mhm.
Okay. When I was in high school, I was nominated and elected to be one of the house captains. In our school, we had athletic and sports event throughout the whole year,
Mhm.
and the four houses or groups of students would compete against each other. So I was one of the house captains. Um, my leadership appointment actually surprised me. I was even surprised to be nominated and elected because I was neither the most athletic nor the best sports person. Of course, I can run, but I can't really run very fast, right? I actually felt a little bit inadequate for a job. Uh, Looking back, it was actually a good thing because I learned that to be a good house captain or a good leader, I didn't have to be the strongest or the smartest in the team. My job then uh, was to be a great encourager, to be an example to other students. So I show up in every training, encourage my teammates to practice hard and do their best.
Mhm.
I did take part in one or two events. I remember vividly that in the 4 times 100 meter race, I
Mhm.
was one of the runners, but definitely not the fastest in the team of four. I
Mhm.
gave my best, and when I passed my baton to the last runner in my team, he dashed all the way, crossed the finishing line, and we won gold that day. That was a very fantastic experience for me, right? Winning gold. Um, but it was teamwork that secured our victory. So to me, leadership is a team sport. It is ultimately the team that wins the championship.
Mhm.
So my experience started in those early days, and then fast forward into corporate life. I was a young plant manager in a manufacturing facility, uh, and to be honest, although I was qualified in chemical engineering and so forth, I actually relied on my team of experienced supervisors and technicians to achieve our production goals because they were more experienced. I have some head knowledge, but they knew all the nitty gritty, all the intricacies of the operation. My job as a team leader was to get them fully engaged and work as a team so that we would meet our quality uh, standards and production targets. Um, so that's the early days of my career. And then I remember one occasion while I was still in production,
Mhm.
I was asked by the CEO to organize a culture change program, right? So I was a technical guy, and here the the boss asked me to organize a change program
Mhm.
to help transform the quality mindset of the facility.
Mhm.
He wanted the company of about 600 people, 600 employees in total, to embrace then the concept of zero defects. Yeah? Wanted to reduce rejects and so on. As a young technical manager, I didn't have any experience in change management, right? Of course, in the later years, when I became a HR leader, I became to be involved in culture change. I learned a lot. But Then I was just a technical guy, and I was asked to lead this corporate communication employee engagement event. Uh, I took I took up the challenge and assembled a core team to design the engagement and communication strategy. We had very open discussion because I rely on them because I don't have the experience. But as it turned out, when we were discussing and sharing different ideas, I discovered that one of the guys in my team, in this core team planning for the change management project, actually had some marketing experience. I didn't expect that at all, right? Because he was a chemist. So, what's the connection between a chemist and marketing? But for
Marketing.
some reason, he had a short stint in marketing.
Mhm.
And because of that, we invited him to share his experience, how how is it done in the marketing world, because to engage employees, it's almost like marketing your ideas, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So indeed, he contributed, and we came up with a good communication plan. We launched a teaser program. That means we have posters, teaser posters, posted in the entire factory, every corner, on the toilet doors, on the wall, and so on. And those brightly colored posters just had a zero with a dash under it, and it created a buzz in the organization. Everybody was curious. So it was a successful um, teaser, a good launch to the engagement program. And other members in the core team chime in. And when we had to execute the different mini projects, we asked the core team members to call up other employees to form their own little teams,
Mhm.
and we empower them to run their engagement programs. Um, Looking back, it was very successful, I would say, and great feedback from management and employees of the whole site, and a lot of fun as well. I remember it was really a lot of fun working with a highly engaged team. And so, if you ask me what's my style, you can almost pick up immediately that it is shared leadership, right? It is all about
Yeah.
engaging people,
Mhm.
giving everyone in the team a voice, uh, gives everyone give up their best, and also take full responsibility. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, and in shared leadership, this whole idea is that me as a leader may sometimes step back so that
Mhm.
other more capable people, more suited for the occasion, uh, to take center stage and take the lead. All right, without me as a leader feeling insecure, feeling that he's stealing the limelight. So that's what shared leadership is about. I think one way to describe that is the picture of migrating wild geese, right? Uh, they fly in, as you know, in a V formation, and then they have a lead bird
Mhm.
working very hard, doing all the heavy lifting to break the air resistance. And when that lead bird uh, is exhausted, he will move aside, and another bird will just instinctively uh, just get onto the front position. And so they have a rotation of taking responsibility. Uh, and this all very natural to them. But I think as human beings, we have to learn this whole concept of shared leadership, right?
Wow. Thank
So,
you
so
for
that's my part. Yeah.
thank you for sharing with us your experience. And like, it's great that you have started your leadership in a very young age in high school, right? And sometimes we don't really like um think that, oh, okay, we're capable of leading the team. Like what you've said, you're neither the fastest or the best in the team, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? Because like each and every person would have their own strength, their own superpowers, right, to contribute in the team. And I really love like how you actually mentioned around or highlighting that leadership is about team, right? It's about working with others, working with people, and working together. And that reminds me of the virtual team building we just ran yesterday. And I really appreciate the insights and the reflections that the the attendees actually shared during the program. And again, it's all about collaboration, communications, and being able to work together as a team, right? Each taking part, each participating, each getting involved or engaged in the in the success of the organization, of the company, or at least of the team, right? So before I proceed to the next question, I just wanted to give an invite to those who are actually watching us live to feel free to um, share your comments or ask your questions throughout the conversation. Join us in this conversation. Okay. So then my next question, I mean, based on the experience that you have, what is leadership for you?
Okay, what is leadership for me? Leadership for me, if you like, is simply the function of leading a group of people from point A to point B, right? So we have the example of Nelson Mandela, one of those role models for me. So Nelson Mandela wanted to lead the South African from a society which is unjust and segregated because of apartheid rule. So that's point A. Um, to point B, a society where there's equality for all, irrespective of race or color. So to me, leadership is that function. So it is not a position or a job title. Okay. And secondly, leadership is about having a clear idea, a clear conviction of what point B is, right? Uh, he has to be very clear and have that strong conviction in order to get a buy-in, communicate effectively, so that the people he leads will follow him. And this is where the idea of leadership resonance comes in. So what do I mean by leadership resonance? In physics, if you take two tuning fork
Mm-hmm.
and you identical tuning fork, of course, with the same pitch, if you sound one and the other fork will also vibrate or resonate. So this is what engagement, I believe true engagement is all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is getting engagement in the vision so that people want to follow you wholeheartedly, right? They resonate or they have the same frequency as you. And to do that, I think when leaders share their vision, they must share in a way that strikes a chord with their followers' individual sense of purpose and values.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People do not follow us because of our coercion or manipulation. I know that in certain organizations they do that, uh, but if you have to really get personal conviction, people must share your sense of common purpose. And another thing that's very important, I feel, is which sometimes leaders forget because they talk about all these lofty ideas, is that resonance also means every team member is able to see what's in it for me. Okay, so the leader must be able to communicate and answer that question so that the members will know what's in it for me. And when there's that resonance, um, people will follow. And at the end of the day, we need to recognize that all of us, right, join an organization, join a movement, or follow a leader to serve our own interests. Yeah, because it gives us something. I'm not saying that it's necessarily a selfish interest, but we have some interest that we want to meet, and that's why we follow a leader. So that's one thing, having that resonance, creating that resonance. And then, of course, leadership also involves strategy and empowerment of people. But, uh, but I would say that in getting the function of leadership done, the leader must do one very important thing, okay? and that is to be able to put together an A team. Okay, an A team. What do we mean by an A team? An A team is one where it's like a core team member, a core group, which is totally with the leader, right?
Mhm.
So the success of the leader depends on his ability or her ability to assemble, develop, and care for a high-performing team. That's what I meant by an A team. If they have the A team will be able to build other A teams down the entire organization, and that's how you can get everybody to move from point A to point B. Uh, Maybe I illustrate with the example of our late Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, the founder of modern day Singapore. He took Singapore from a fishing village and a trading post without any natural resources. Uh, we don't have anything, right, apart from human resources, from point A to what we have today, a first world nation, point B. How did he do that? Of course, he's brilliant as a person, but however, he could only do that uh, because he has successfully assembled an A team. He had very capable leaders such as Dr. Goh Keng Swee, uh,
Mhm.
who led the transformation in Singapore's economic, defense, and education sector. So yes, our late Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew is brilliant, but he didn't do it alone. He did it with his A team. Okay, and the A team uh, developed and assembled other A teams to help deliver the vision that we enjoy today. Yeah.
Exactly. And again, that's like what you have been reminding us is that it's all about team or creating that a team that you were mentioning, because that's how I would say sustainability is possible as well, right? Like when when some of the leaders would have to move to another organization or whatnot, at least there's succession planning and there's preparations for the remaining leaders who will be left in the organization, and it's about empowering them and creating this team together, with again the vision, the purpose, and the values, so that they can actually bring that vision into life, or from, like what you've said, point A to point B. So thank you so much for sharing that, and it's really like a valuable piece as well, I would say. And before I ask the next question, I'd like to say thank you to Sophia and William for giving us some love here. And for those who would like to have or share any questions, comments, feel free to do so. And so, like in my introduction earlier, I made mention about the next normal or the hybrid setting. So, in your case and your experience working as a leader, how would you define or describe the next normal?
Yeah, some people call it a new normal. I like the way you put it, the next normal. Uh, so we are referring or talking about the situation we're in now, the reality that we have not totally eradicated COVID-19. New variants may show up because of mutation, and infection rate may surge. This means we will continue to have safety measures, and from time to time, more stringent measures, such as lockdown, may have to be enforced. Uh, and we have seen that in Shanghai recently. However, I feel that the next normal is more than just working from home or safe distancing to prevent transmission of infection. It's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Those problems we have already uh, experienced in the last 2 years, and we have resolved most of them, although some companies may take a bit longer to get their access security right, introduce new ways of working to engage staff using technology and so on, right? So we have at least 2 years of experience. I think it is the coming together or the confluence of other trends alongside the pandemic, which has made the situation more complex and challenging
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the next normal. Uh, what are these? Some of these trends? They didn't. They've started even before the pandemic, and now they're sort of coming together. These trends include the changing attitudes and expectations of employees, Many companies are impacted by the Great Resignation. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we call it Great Resignation because now they're rethinking about work and life. Besides the pandemic, climate change, I, we hear about natural disaster here and there
Mm-hmm.
unexpectedly, geopolitical tensions and conflicts such as what's happening in Ukraine now. All this may disrupt supply chains, energy supply, as in Europe, as well as the financial markets. All this makes the future highly unpredictable, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the next normal, I think we used to say that that change is a constant. Yeah, we
Yes.
also change the constant. In the next normal, accelerated change is a constant. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
we add the word accelerated. We also talk about the VUCA word, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Now what we are saying is hyper VUCA, right? Hyper VUCA.
Okay.
What it means is that organization which are just used to very stable environment or even manage change in a very predictable way will struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But those which are resilient and agile will have a competitive edge and they may even flourish. So in short, the next normal is characterized by a lot of uncertainty. So it's not just sailing into uncharted waters,
Mm-hmm.
but sailing into uncharted waters in stormy weather. So we have a combination of stormy waves and the bad weather coming together. So I think we have to be ready for a rough ride.
Yes, very true. And I had that conversation with one of my experts in terms of like um, the actually post-pandemic effects as well, where like what you've mentioned, there will be more uncertainties, there will be accelerated changes or hyper VUCA, and of course that includes possibilities of supply chain disruptions and all of these challenges that we might face. And again, like there's no way but to be able to prepare for the uncertainties, like what you've said. Uncertainties and changes has been in our life like almost forever. Right,
Yes.
like it's a usual thing, in fact. But then again, it's really being able to, how can I actually like address all these challenges that I'm facing, right? And it's really thinking it in such a way, like how can I create an opportunity out of this challenge that we are facing, right? So thank you for defining it for us as if you have like a magic ball in front of you. And I just wanted to acknowledge Bala. He's giving us a thumbs up. Thank you for joining us live. And so that leads me to my next question. Like, from your experience in the corporate world as a leader, as well as now working with corporate leaders from different companies, what would you say would be the top three problems that leaders do normally face?
Um, Good question, Marilyn. So I will speak from experience with CEOs who have hired me and worked with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say that although there are many problems presented or shared by these leaders, I found that the underlying issue or underlying many of these problems in organization is the issue of trust and openness. Uh, Many companies, they want innovation, they want engagement, but innovation is stifled if people don't feel safe to speak up.
True.
Uh, Real issues are not tabled for robust discussion if trust is not present. So the real issues are just swept under the carpet, right?
True.
And bosses don't get to hear the bad news or different views or opposing views. Um, if they are surrounded by people who are yes men, who are just want to be secure, and so when there's no healthy and robust debates, decisions taken are not always the best decisions, right? Um, I know that some leaders don't see trust and psychological safety as the real issue, so they only see the symptoms of poor quality non-compliance, or lack of innovation, and so on. But I'm happy to say that I have worked with some leaders who uh, understood this, and some of the projects I was involved with um, were around this topic of
Mm-hmm.
how do we then make the environment safe, open, so that employees could speak up. Yeah,
Sure.
right. If we want to improve quality, they must be prepared to be willing to talk about the problems they face, the mistakes they make, and this requires a very safe place for them to do that.
So, is there anything more?
Oh
So
yes,
the
of
top
course. So that
trust
is
and
just
openness.
just the top one, right? The
Oh
top one
yes.
underlying symptoms of poor quality,
Uh-huh.
non-compliance, lack of innovation,
Mm-hmm.
and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but linked to that, I think it's the issue of engagement and ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the leaders I work with tell me that they wish their employees are more engaged, take greater ownership, don't sit around and wait for top-down instructions. They want to see greater initiative and responsiveness to solve problems quickly at the ground. Uh, I recall reading a survey, I think it was released in September 2021, that the
Mm-hmm.
average engagement worldwide, so this worldwide average, some countries higher, some lower, is about 65%. Right?
Wow, that's huge.
This has actually dropped 3% compared to 2020. Not
Mm-hmm.
surprising, right? Because of
Mm-hmm.
COVID. Um, that means effectively, 1 in 3 employees is disengaged, right? Uh, and if we're talking about the new or the next normal just now, where
Mm-hmm.
leaders have to steer a ship quickly through stormy waves, you need all the engines firing at full throttle, right?
True.
If you have 3 engines and one is down, you're not going to be able to navigate through the stormy sea fast enough. If you are on a cruise, enjoying a cruise, that's fine. But if you are running a business in stormy weather, you want to be able to get out of the situation very quickly. So can you imagine if I'm running a business and I realized that I have to install a new technology to save my business, but one third of my employees uh, are not interested. Okay, I'm going to have limited success, or by the time I install the technology, uh, game over. Right, too late. My business uh, may not survive. So we need all decks on. We need all hands on deck. So we need full engagement. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. True.
1/3 of disengaged people is not good at all. Maybe the third one I would say is something which I think you alluded to earlier is about talent pipeline, succession planning. I think the challenge presented to me often, and I just spoke to the leader of an organization a couple of weeks back, is on this issue of how do we retain people, how do we grow talent. Um, of course, there are benefits of nurturing our homegrown talent within the organization because they know the culture, they know the system, they have the network, they have already established trust. So if they become leaders, things can get done, move a bit quicker. But we have a dilemma here. The dilemma is shared by this CEO with me. A very common one is if we develop the people, what happens? They get poached, right? If we don't develop them, they look elsewhere. So that's a real dilemma. And I would say there are no easy solutions, no silver bullet. But suffice to say that the open culture where there's trust and openness is a good starting point. Why? Because people stay and live for their own very personal reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the later part of my career is in HR, and in the exit interview, people do not want to burn their bridges, and they will put in reasons like, "Oh, I leave for better career prospect," right? So they don't tell you the real reasons.
True.
But if we have an open culture where there's trust, leaders can have a frank discussion, frank conversations with their key talent on this topic. And when leaders are able to understand them as individuals, what are the reasons, what motivates them, what will help them to stay a bit longer, then they are in a better position to develop a customized
Mhm.
retention strategy. Yeah.
Yes. Like I really love how you shared and summarized all these three problems, which is around trust, engagement, as well as succession planning, which I always hear a lot with the conversations I also have with clients. And I remember this quote from Richard Branson that, train people well enough so they can leave and treat them well enough so they don't want to, right? So it's like a chicken and egg thing, as we would probably say, right? Like, if I don't trade them and they stay in the organization, then how as well, right? And the same dilemma that you've shared when, if we train them, then they get poached by another company. But I mean, if they have to stay in your organization, or if you want them to stay in your organization, I believe that, training and development, career development, will be a key to do so, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we will not leave them with these problems, like what you've shared, right? um, what do you believe is then the important leadership capabilities or skills that they must have in order to um, be able to continue to lead effectively in this next normal, considering, you've mentioned earlier around uncertainty, accelerated changes, and all those stuff. So what are the important leadership capabilities and skills they must have, or at least to answer the problems, the three problems that you've raised?
Yeah. Um, okay. So, what leadership capabilities, capability, capabilities and skills, right? That they need to have in the new normal. Um, I think it would be linked to what I've said earlier, right? Because organization can only move and adapt at the speed of trust, right? In this hyper-vocal environment that we talk about. That means leaders must have the capabilities and skills
Mhm,
to lead their teams to learn very fast and to adapt to new ways of working quickly. At
mhm,
the same time, staying very resilient together so that they can manage the shock waves of change. So it's all about um, able to adapt, able to learn and move very quickly. And in my opinion, then mastering what I call the key disciplines of shared leadership, which I referred to earlier,
mhm,
is a must for leaders in the new normal. And again, shared leadership is everyone fully engaged, has ownership uh, and accountability for the performance of the team, right?
mhm,
So it this is not going to just happen. It requires leaders to have that mastery of how to build those teams. And so I would rank share leadership and adaptive learning skills to be at the top of what leaders need to master in the new normal.
mhm,
And that's what I do in my company, Team Biosis. So team biosis is composed of two words: team for teamwork. Biosis in Greek means a way of life.
mhm,
So uh, teamwork as a way of life, and CEOs hire me to help them build these skill sets and capabilities in their team. And it's not just for the leaders; uh, it is coaching the entire team so that the team learn together. As you know, I don't know whether I've shared with you, but I'm also on the faculty of a global team coaching company called Leadership in Motion, or LIM in short.
Mm-hmm.
And there we train leaders and coaches how to lead teams based on the shared leadership disciplines. And I'm a believer in this. I share this, earlier on, right at the start, about you know winning winning the championship, how leadership is a team sport, and so how to build high performing team, how to embed share leadership discipline into the team. uh, I think would be crucial for leaders to master.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for sharing that with us. And again, like it's all about team and working together because it doesn't make sense, like, being in the same organization or being in the same team if you will not work together and use each and everyone's strength, right? And that's why also, like what you've mentioned earlier, that how trust is important, when you build this, right? And it's also the same experience that our participants yesterday actually shared during the conversation, which you also somehow mentioned today, which is it's very interesting. Like, and these are people from different like age, companies, countries, and they worked as a team during the game, in less than, I don't know, in less than 30 minutes. They were able to really create that, that trust, that be able to communicate to each other. And at the same time, they made mention similar things as you've mentioned around, we need to help each other to make the right or better decisions, having that psychological safety for people to be more open in terms of their communications, and also accepting each other's ideas or perspectives, right? And again, that's how team works, right? And like working together to get that championship or to get that gold in the end, right? So I mean, we've been talking a lot around leadership, especially as well as like how important continuous learning is in this process. And of course, that would help us to, to get through that transformation to thrive in this next normal. So what do you believe is the role of these three in in
This
in,
tree,
in thriving?
le-
Yeah, learning,
learning.
transformation in order to thrive in the next normal.
That's a very big question, Marilyn. Uh,
I
Three very big themes, but they're very important ones: learning,
True.
leadership, and transformation. Um, let me let me just share some key thoughts here. Um, I think we are all familiar with the concept of the learning organization.
Mm-hmm.
This concept is not a new one, but I think the urgency is even greater now, right? When we
Mm-hmm.
talk about the new normal, because we
Mm-hmm.
want to create agile organizations
Mm-hmm.
which can navigate the new normal. Organizations have to very quickly unlearn old ways of working and adopt new ways in order to adapt. So new strategies may have to be implemented very quickly in response to unexpected changes. And we know that on this topic of learning, working
Mm-hmm.
from home has accelerated the use of online and virtual learning platforms. And here we are talking to each other and sharing with the audience through a learning platform. So technology has changed the way we learn. There's
True.
no doubt about it. Uh, However, beyond the use of technology, I believe there must be a paradigm shift, right? A shift in the way learning takes place in organizations. Just pushing out online learning, no matter how engaging they are,
Mm-hmm.
using tools such as gamification and so on, and now we are even talking about virtual reality, uh, is no longer enough. I believe the paradigm shift that has to be made is that each team, each team in the organization, throughout the whole organization,
Mm-hmm.
must be actively engaged in owning, designing, and even delivering its own learning. In other words, the team must learn and adapt together. Um, the notion of sending individuals to training courses uh, is still important, but it has limited effectiveness, as we all know, in the transfer of learning. Um, they definitely have their place in certain skills training and so on. However, if we are talking about the team or the organization transforming itself to adopt quickly, learning must take place at the most basic team level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not going to be, I believe it's no longer the experts in the learning department somewhere in HQ developing and marketing its cookie cutter programs. Um, I, I, I work in a MNC before, and it's true for big MNCs, which often try to roll out standardized programs to its subsidiaries across the globe. So standardization is sought after. However, I think what is needed, what is required is for the learning experts to partner with local teams to co-create up-to-date learning intervention. And they have to do it very quickly so that
Mm-hmm.
it's highly contextualized and fit for purpose. Well, I think we learned from the pandemic that different countries or even cities within the same country have different rules dealing with the pandemic. So you cannot have a cookie cutter solution. You need different highly customized solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we need to empower local teams to develop their own local learning solutions, right? Um, of course, for global companies, we still need to have general policies, some guidelines, but customization, I think, is the key. Team learning is critical, right? Uh, what does that mean then? It means that embedding some of the shared leadership values that I talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to introduce here also the principles of action, reflection, learning, which I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you have heard of. There are 10 of these, at least 10 action, reflection, learning principles. They include things like learning must be relevant, we must have reflection, and that's why we help the team to reflect and learn from their experience. Social learning, right? Um, peer-to-peer coaching and learning, and learning involving the whole person and so on. So these principles, the action, reflection, and learning principles, if they are adopted and applied in a very synergistical way at the team level, and that's what I want to emphasize, they will foster accelerated learning, organizational transformation, right? So let me give you an example from the sports world. Um, I talk about running now, maybe I can talk about soccer. So in the sports world, a team which is behind in the first half can come back to win in the second half, all right? Provided it is able to learn in the first half the mistakes it made, it is able to understand how to exploit the weaknesses of the opposing team so that in the second team, they can make a comeback and win the game. So unexpected setbacks is going to happen in the next normal, and it's going to create setbacks for businesses. Uh, but those which are able to learn quickly, transform themselves, will have a higher chance of making a comeback. And we have seen that, right, in the pandemic. Yeah.
Yes. And I would say that, what you've shared with us around team learning, co creating, customizing programs, or action reflection learning is what makes it different from, how can you actually bridge between knowledge and or information to really applying what you've learned, right? It has to be, right, like integrated, and it has to be like, several interventions that goes together, and I mean that's always like an experience or probably the challenge of most organizations. Like they expect a different outcomes, but they do the same things, right? Doing the usual, I don't know, 1 hour 2 hours training or even like a day or so, but then missing out in terms of how they can actually make it as integrated, and as reflective as possible, like what you've said, action reflection learning, which um, I'm grateful for. I mean, in the last 2 years, we have experimented quite a lot. In terms of me, even me facilitating it to experiment that, which I don't usually do in the past, right? And we've done like masterminds, as well as gamification as well, with virtual team building. And I've seen like the difference in terms of how they actually respond and how do they, yeah, these insights that we've shared. Imagine yesterday, the again, the virtual team building that we have done. We only have 10 people, and yet like the insights that we've heard from each and everyone, it's really like very fruitful, along that conversation around collaboration and teamwork, around communications, and how important listening is. And this is something really valuable for them to reflect, like, okay, this is something that we need to do, or see in the workplace eventually, right? So that's really like, it's really good that you reminded us again today of this very important lesson. So yeah, and I'd like to ask you the next or the last two questions, which is like, if you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it? A very open question, right?
Right. Is this a Miss Universe question?
Yes, that's part of my Miss
Okay.
Universe question already.
Yeah. I recall most of the contestants would answer, I wish for world peace and happiness for everyone. Uh, well, I have a similar wish actually, but I will put it in a more practical way
Mhm,
for our context today, right? So if I have a magic wand, I would tap on every CEO and get them to lead their organizations in such a way as to honor our humanity
mhm,
and the environment. This means creating organizations where human potential could flourish and running their business with sustainability in mind. Uh,
mhm,
let's face it, most people spend almost half of their waking hours at work. And if we are able to design work and organizations so that human potential uh, is able to flourish and at the same time protect our environment, I think we'll be on the path to a better world. Yeah.
mhm. Thank
So it's
you. That.
about releasing human potential
Mhm.
and making sure that we do business in a sustainable way.
Yeah, true, true. If I got that correctly, let me just check with you. To If you have a magic wand, you would like to tap it on every CEO and get them to lead in a way that they honor our environment and everyone around them. Did I get it right?
In a way that honors our humanity
Humanity. Okay.
and the environment.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. I'm kind of getting slow here. Thank you, thank you. And again, like that's all about sustainability. If you were able to really like work around, nowadays, they call it, if I remember it correctly with another conversation with a futurist, it's she call it three P's, which is people, planet, then profitability, right? So that's the probably just the end result, and not always like just the priority or just the main purpose of running a business, right? It's really like taking care of everyone within the organization and outside the organization, through the communities and the environment, as you mentioned. So I really hope that you have a magic wand, Kai. But I again, like, even without that, you've been somehow on your own capabilities and strengths. You are already doing that as if you have a magic wand, right? Like with the work that you do. So thank you so much for that. Even without the magic wand, you have been impacting CEOs and organizations in such a way to like really create this greater good or sustainable business, I would say, through the capability, the training, and the coaching that you do in your work. So thank you so much for that. And of course, that leads me to my last question. This is very interesting and open as well. If you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? What question would that be? And if you'd like to share with us your answer, since you can best answer it, please feel
Okay.
free to do so as well.
Thank you so much for this question because it allowed me to express what I believe in and what I'm passionate about. So, so you probably can guess what I'm going to say. The question is, how do you build a high-performing team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking about the importance of team, how learning must take place at the team level. Um, there are many elements to this, so I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I will just share three key points,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think first and foremost, we must help leaders to learn how to create an atmosphere of trust and openness,
Mm-hmm.
uh, an atmosphere or environment where there's psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
Team members are able to express themselves freely and have real connection with one another.
Mm-hmm.
When we have that, then we have the basis for real teamwork. Yeah. And we must start with the leader. If the leader wants the team members to be authentic and vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
he must set the tone and example. You can't ask others to be open when you're closed and you put up a front. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Secondly, the leader must be able to discern the strength of each member and give room for them to play to their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we can tap into uh, everyone and have synergy in the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tapping into everyone's strengths. And
Yeah.
thirdly, the leader must be willing to adopt and apply the principles that I spoke about earlier, the principles of shared leadership. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and this involved the willingness and ability to step back when necessary so that others can take center stage. As you can see, this is going to require a lot of inner work for the leader,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the area of self-esteem and emotional intelligence. Um, why self-esteem? It is important because the leader has to be secure as a person,
Mm-hmm.
to be authentic, to be vulnerable, and also to be secure enough to release control. And emotional intelligence has been talked about and is absolutely important because the leader needs to guide the team to be inclusive and expansive. So it's not just inclusive, but also expansive in the way the team thinks and make decisions. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is important for the team leader to have the EQ to be able to do that. It's also I think very important, as I mentioned earlier, to create resonance or helping the team to vibrate in the same frequency, right? I
Mm-hmm.
talked about tuning fork earlier. And to do that, you need, the leader needs to have this inner work. And most likely this could be achieved through the support of an executive coach. And so leaders hire me to do this kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very highly personal work, which I enjoy doing. But it's really important. Unless the leader has that inner work done, they will not be able to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be able to feel secure, to release control, to
Mm-hmm.
empower others. But it's not just the leader to build high performing teams. It is also for the team collectively to learn how to work very closely together, uh, applying the principles of shared leadership. The geese flying in V formation, each one has to take turn at the right moment. So the best way to learn that is on the job, real time, with a team coach. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I have made shared leadership the focus of my team coaching work. So apart from coaching individual executives, I also do coaching for teams because
Mm-hmm.
that's where it can collectively be effective. So I think that this has far-reaching impact on organizations in the next normal if we can
Mm-hmm.
get CEOs and teams to be high performing.
Thank you. That's really a great answer. And of course, question for our leaders to ask on a daily basis, I guess. How do you build a high performing team? I think this is a very like common questions that most leaders would ask and would like to address as well. And we're flashing the answer in the summary as well. It's all about creating the openness or an environment of openness or psychological safety. And that's also the reason why trust is a must, in building relationships, not only personally but also in organizations, and leveraging on the strengths of each team members. That's really beautiful because it's something that will create as well a very joyful environment, I would say, because when you're leveraging on your strength, or you're passionately sharing your strengths within your organization, that's gonna be like a joyful, always a joyful day. We've been hearing a lot around Monday blues, and dreading to go to work on a daily basis, right? And if you are enjoying yourself, if you are passionate about it, and if you are really making use of your strengths, you should be like joyful in, and you should look forward in the daily things that you do. And last but not the least, again, the inner work, which is around emotional intelligence, like what you mentioned. And again, that's where it all starts, from your mindset, your awareness, self esteem, and of course, being authentic and vulnerable as well, at the same time, like what you've said, which is inner work, and which is something that I'm also like working on personally. um, and yeah, so thank you so much for this conversation. I really enjoyed it as much as I did in our um, previous conversation. And thank you, Lancaster Fernandez, for your likes as well. And if you will have like any follow-up questions for us, feel free to like just drop us an email. I'll tag you as well on this conversation, Kai, so that if they have specific questions, or they would like to share their love with you, then you can actually see it personally. And before we end this interview, is there any like parting message that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Right. So thank you for that. You talk about looking forward to work. People would say, "Thank God it's Friday," right? I think it'd be wonderful if we have organizations and work design where people say, "Thank God it's Monday. I can go back to work."
Yes,
We live in unpredictable times. We talk about
sure.
that at length. Uh, I believe this is the time for leaders to step up their game and make a
Yes.
real difference. So for those who are in leadership out there, I just want to encourage that this is the opportunity for you when when you do a great job of leading well. You are not just benefiting your company or your personal professional career. You're also making a positive impact on the lives of people you lead and their families as well, right? So can you imagine if we have an environment where people say, "Thank God it's Monday," then
Mhm.
uh, where people work in an environment of trust, respect, healthy relationships, they bring home positive vibes, right? They come home feeling positive and pass on those positive vibes to their spouses and children.
Mhm.
Right? The effect on society as a whole can only be positive.
Yes.
So to the leaders, keep learning, master how to lead in the shared leadership way.
Yes, thank you so much for that inspiring message. And before we end, thank you, William. Thank you, Mr. Loo Kai Yee. Yeah, so thank you so much, William, for joining us as well today. And thank you, everyone who's watched us, who is joining us live today. And for those who will be joining us in the replay as well, thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Mr. Kailu. Yeah, so they're sending their love to you, and they're thankful for the insights that you have shared. And of course, I really appreciate your time and this very, I would say, authentic and very insightful conversation as usual with you. It's really helpful, and I really appreciate all the inspiration that and learning that you've shared with us today. And again, thank you everyone for watching us, and do join us in this journey to create a joyful environment and a lot of opportunities in this changing world, right? That of course we believe in, and I think that's kind of common with us as well, Kai, the vision of having that helping organizations to have that joyful environment, sustainable environment. I think that's what is one of the some of the common things that um, we hope for. I would say. So, and for everyone, do remember that even the richest investors in the world say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life. So with that, we would like to leave you with this quote that if your action create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you so much, Kai. Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone. And
you.
stay in touch with us. Let us know if there's anything we can help you. Or if you are enjoying the contents that we are creating, feel free to buy us a coffee. This is the link, and we'll be sharing that again later on. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Kai, and
Thank
bye for
you.
now. Stay safe,
Bye.
everyone.